So welcome to our top 10 on economic games. So Pedro, tell us about what kind of games you included and which ones you did not include.
I included games that were definitely economic games, so not games that...
Thanks for clearing that up. We'll go home now.
So games that actually deal with where you're handling money. So I guess economic simulators. Somewhat.
Every game pretty much handles money.
Yes. I think most of the games that we play are all like just economic games usually. If they're not conflict games.
A lot of games have economic in it. So what I did was a little bit different. I tried to theme it up a little bit, and so different types of economic games. Some of them included things other than money.
Yeah.
There's a couple in here that may be property and goods, but there was an economic system going on. And I tried to make the economy the focus of the game. So if it wasn't the focus of the game, I tried not to include it if it just had money. So, like, Life to me would be a game where you're really building a career in a life, as opposed to Monopoly, where you have...
It's an economic game.
It's an economic game, yeah.
Right. So I guess where the end game is the money, whoever has the most money, whoever is the better economist.
Sometimes. We'll see about that.
Okay.
Okay, what about honorable mentions? What do you have?
Honorable mentions, Viticulture.
That was an honorable mention for me, too.
It's an honorable mention for me. It's a game that I actually do like a lot, but out of my top 10, I like the top 10 a little bit more.
Okay.
Even though I think I would actually play Viticulture more often than these, but Viticulture is one of those, and that's really my only. I mean, there's tons of economic ones, but Viticulture is one that stands out.
Honorable mention would be somebody that you really considered to be on your list, and it kind of dropped off.
Yeah, so
I made a short list, and I let that list be whatever it may be, and then I cross names off, and I'm like,
Okay.
So a couple for me would be Martin Wallace's Automobile.
Oh, okay.
Viticulture was on there. The Gallerist.
The Gallerist is a good one, yeah.
Last Will, which is the reverse of trying to get rid of money. Really like it, and it barely missed my list.
Okay.
But that's one of my favorite go-to gateway games would be Last Will. Mm-hmm. Wealth of Nations, which we played, I think, at the Dice Tower.
I forgot about Wealth of Nations. That's
it's
a good one.
It's just so bland.
It's dry. It's like a good wine.
Yeah. Grand Austrian Hotel.
Oh, okay.
And there were a couple games that were kind of more like Wall Street games, like Panic on Wall Street, we like, Black Friday, and Goldbrau. Goldbrau. I don't know if you played that one.
Goldbrau.
Sure, I call it Goldbrau. Because I always dream of those things. And then another really good introductory, which I've done a review on, is Gnomes of Zandavor. If you ever played that one, it's about an economic system with gnomes, so that one's pretty good.
Okay.
That's quite a bit, but that gives you guys watching maybe some other ones to go out and check with, and I'll make a list of those here so we can see those, and they'll be right here. And that's the list.
Okay.
That was it. Did you see it, Pedro?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it right there in front of me.
Okay, number 10 best economic game according to Pedro Mendoza.
My number 10 is Greed Incorporated.
You played that game one time with one of the most best-looking, smartest, best board gamers you ever met.
That is true.
Who was that guy? And don't say Ryan. Don't say Ryan.
But you definitely rocked that game. I think
do you remember the ending of that game?
We didn't end it because we realized...
Because one of our players
He wasn't cheating. He was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing stuff. I'm like, oh. He's like, how do I win at this game? Oh, you're supposed to be doing this one particular... thing in the game. In Greed, what you play is you're a I guess an entrepreneur starting these really huge Fortune 500 companies, and so you want to make sure that these companies buy these assets and then use these assets to make money. But then you want it to get to a point where doesn't make money for the year, so then it fails, and then they end up firing the CEO, and you want to be the CEO because when you get fired, then you get a nice little stipend.
What they call the golden parachute.
And then with that money, you're supposed to buy like these luxury items, and that's who determines the winner. If you have like the nice G4 jet air. I guess they're G5s now. That's what's popular. Like the airplanes and the nice cars. And so it's a game where you're manipulating different companies. And I think our friend was just like, I don't know how I'm supposed to win. And he didn't realize that you're supposed to actually be helping the company gain money to then tank it.
Yeah.
So that way you can get your golden parachute.
He also had a tough time with the fact that you're not the companies.
You're not.
If you're the CEO of the company, then you're running it and making money for it. But that money isn't yours. That's not your victory points. Right. You have your own. Pedro can come in and become the CEO. He takes the company, and now he runs it, and I'm getting paid through it. So that was really lost on him.
Yeah. And it's really fun. I really like the game because you're getting into other people's business, other people's companies. If you want to, if Jason was like the CEO of a company, I could come in as the CFO. And then if he decides to tank the company, I still get a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
Even though he's making decisions. So it's about using clever play and knowing which companies you want to invest in.
And it's heavy.
And it's
a splatter game.
It feels a little bit like a spreadsheet. It's got a market that's very, I guess, very just dry.
I think it's fair to say it's a teeny bit of a mess too, right?
A little bit. Yeah.
Like it's not as put together as some of the games on this list. So let me jump on my number 10.
Yeah.
It's going to be a game you may not have heard of called Basket Boss. You played this one?
No, it sounds like have you seen that movie, what is it, Basketball?
Yeah, that's it. No.
Totally different. Different.
What's that called? South Park guys. No,
Yeah,
this is Basket Boss. And this is about running a basketball team. Now, I know I just turned everybody off out there. They shriveled up because they're like sports, but no. You don't have to know anything about sports because you're just really bidding and buying these players, and some are better than others. But really, it's just icons, and these are their attributes. Very, very simple. It's a good beginner game if you want to get somebody who's kind of sporty into. If you ever saw that show, Bored with Life, so if you got one of those guys, the good-looking guy that's always there, that plays. If you want to get somebody like that in, here's Basketball. This is a real game. It's not a sports simulation. You're not playing the game. You're not scoring points and all that. You don't have to know anything about basketball. You just have to field a team, and they last for so long, and they get points. Some get better as they go on. Some get worse as they go on. It's a really neat game, but a really neat little bidding auction economic system in there. And it's really an economic game more than a sports game, if you will. But Basket Boss. Have you played this one?
No, I've not played this one.
It's a little dry and bland and a little bit simple. Okay. You know what I mean? But it has a completely different theme that we're used to, but it's not a sports game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Number 9, Pedro.
Number 9. We go into the sci-fi realm, and the number 9 on my list is Merchants of Venus.
Ooh.
This game is a really, really
Over
cool
Firefly.
Game. Over Firefly, yeah.
Interesting.
I like Merchants of Venus a lot because it's a lot more. It's not as long. It's not that random. Really, all you're doing is just a really simple pick up and deliver game, where you're just going through space and having to deal with the hazards in space and trying to figure out what are the best routes. Discovering different civilizations, finding out what goods they want, and then figuring out what is the quickest route to be able to make the most money before to end the game. And there's 2 versions of this game. There's like the old classic version, and then Fantasy Flight put out a new version of it that's pretty good. Both of them play similarly. They just have different things that they change, but I really, really enjoy this game. I like playing it solo. There's a variant online that you can
the solo variant good?
There's a solo variant that you can play online. That's good. There's a solo version that's in the manual that I don't like as much, but it's really good game. Have you played Merchants of Venus?
One time, me and Dylan played.
Okay. It's a really fun game. I really like it. We
put it back in the box and said, we'll stick with Firefly. That's what happened. And he sold his copy.
Yeah, Firefly has a little bit more of like the cool action-y adventure.
Well, it also has a theme attached to it. The license, and that goes a little far with people.
Yeah. So that's my game.
It played fine, though. I mean, I didn't have any problems with it. But when games are really similar sometimes, and you tend to pull out the one you like.
Yeah, totally.
Or it really, Firefly's a theme to me. You have a little bit of fighting and pirates in there.
Yeah.
So,
I just feel like there's way more random events that can happen in Firefly, which I guess make it more thematic that way.
Maybe.
I just like how this is just a simple, I just need to get this good to that good as quickly as I can, and then go this way, and then figure out your route and just do that.
I'm totally open to playing it again. We played it when we were just kind of checking it out.
Oh, okay.
We played a very short game. My number 9 is what I call my 2-player line here. So I threw in a couple of these just to give information on them. My pick is going to be Jambo. My wife and I like to play Jambo a lot.
Jambo.
It's a really neat 2-player economic game where you're buying and selling goods in an African community. But you could just as easily put Burger Joint in there and Lemonade Stand. Burger Joint is where one person's doing burgers and one person's doing pizza. And then Lemonade Stand's a very light game you can play with your kids with a little economic system. But I kind of combine those to give people more options, but really Jambo is my pick. Have you played Jambo?
Yes, I have played Jambo. I really like Jambo.
There's 2 expansions where they're just an extra set of cards. I would, based on price, just go ahead and get those because it just adds to the variety. But we've taken it on trips, on cruises.
Yeah. Not us.
Us. I wish Pedro would go on a cruise with just me.
I wish you would take me on a cruise.
We would nail it, man.
Have you played the Asante? Asante, which is
I heard very similar.
It's like the Part 2 remake, but you can combine it with Jambo.
Oh no! I didn't think you could combine it. I might pick that up because my wife really likes Jambo. It's one of her favorites. Okay. All right, Pedro, number 8. What are we looking at?
All right, for my number 8, I have Le Havre. Le Havre is a Uwe Rosenberg game, part of his, what do they call it, the agriculture trilogy that he's got, because he's got...
It's no longer a trilogy, though.
It's a quadrology.
Because now he's got Caverna and...
Agricola, Caverna, this one, and then what was the other one? He had another one. I don't know what it's called.
There's all kinds of them, man.
Gates of Loyang.
And Bohanza.
Le Havre is my favorite. I like this game a lot. I play this a lot on my phone. I have the app for it. It's a really cool, just resource gathering game, and pretty much what you're doing is you're building up like a small little empire on the docks, where you're trying to produce the most money by the end of the game. And so you do that by collecting fish, and then you can do stuff with the resources. Like if you have fish, you can use it to feed your people, like in every agriculture game that Uwe does. But you can also make it smoked fish, so that way it's a lot more efficient way to feed all your people. And it's really fun because you can also go to other people's buildings, pay them a certain fee, and then you're just doing all these cool synergistic things to be able to build your empire. And it's really, really
how many people do you play
interesting with? I like playing it with 3. 3 is a good number because the way the game plays, you have these boats that have to go through a track, and so when you have more than 3, then all of a sudden the number of rounds goes way too quickly, and you don't feel like you have a lot of control in what happens there. But 3
this
is a good
game
number.
I thought about, but I didn't feel like it was an economic game. It was I had a problem with it, so I left it off on purpose. It's brutal with 4 or 5 people because you just don't get that many actions per turn. But if you know those cards, you're going to win.
Yeah. It changes up the order of the way the cards come out, and then the special buildings.
There's a certain combination of cards that can be very powerful.
Right.
And I feel like when I teach the game, if I know something like that, you don't like this. I'll ask you a lot of times, like, do you want me to tell you a little bit about strategy? Like, nope, I want to find it out myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I'm playing against somebody, I'll be like, if you want to know strategy, there's something I want to tell you. Let me tell you this because of this card. In Twilight Struggle, I like to tell people the Japanese card's going to come out. So if you put a lot of stuff on Japanese, there's a card that wipes it all out.
Yeah.
If you're the Russian side. So it's good to know those kind of things. But fantastic game. I thought about it quite a bit. It's really, really good. It has a solo game to it too, right?
I've not played it solo.
I think it does.
Okay, that's cool.
Number 8 for me is MULE, which I had never played the video game. And I said that in my review that I've never played the video game. So I'm not coming from somebody from that kind of background, although I heard the board game is exactly like it. Have you played this one?
I've not played Mule.
Dylan and I played it a few times.
The board game.
Okay. It's really good. It's an economic system that's like on a planet.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different of what you're buying, but it has luck involved, okay?
Okay.
So it's one of the few economic systems I feel like that has a lot of luck that isn't Wall Street, where there will be events that come out. Now, you can, in the rule book, it actually tells you can get rid of these events, but apparently this was something that was in the computer game or video game. Okay. But I like it. You just have to know going in, this is not going to be a strict economic game. It's going to have some luck. You're going to do X, Y, Z, and something bad may happen to you just because it happens to you, and you have to be okay with that. To me, that's an exciting challenge to work around. Mm-hmm. The more you know, now, you're going to have event cards, and they're not all going to be in the deck. So you can kind of plan around those once you know those, but they may not be in there either. So, You can play it as just a straight economic game if you want, although I think you're missing the boat with that. But Mule's one you really like.
Okay, I'll have to
you
check
like
it out.
economic games. So the theme is interesting, how you're buying things, and it's one of those things like Power Grid where if you buy something, the price goes up because there's less.
Okay, yeah.
And you can totally be out of a resource. So it's really neat in that regard. So that's MULE, M-U-L-E, which stands for, it's an acronym. Stands for it's an acronym.
It stands for it's an acronym.
Yeah. I don't memorize acronyms. Number 7.
Number 7. For me, my number 7 is Carson City. I have Carson City as an economic game. I guess you could call it economic/city building. But I really, really enjoyed this game. I first played it last year at Dice Tower Con.
You're welcome.
Oh, man. It was a fun experience. So you play, I guess, one of the founding city members, and you just go out west, and you lay claim to some gold mines, and then you help building a town. And then at the end of the game, if you help contribute the most to the town, then you are the winner. And it's a really interesting way the game works because you can actually go to other people's land and try to beat them out of it.
Yeah.
Which is very, very cool.
Very rare for worker placement, too.
Yes, it's a worker placement game it's like a cowboy worker placement game. I really enjoyed it. I've not played it with any... Did we play with any expansions with it? I don't think we did.
We did not.
But it's got this cool little role selection thing, so you get to be different characters every round, and what you select makes a difference, and I like the way the city builds at the end, and I don't know. It's just a really enjoyable game.
It's like my top 1 or 2 games of all time. I love Carson City. Mm-hmm. I thought about it and didn't leave it off because you actually win by victory points. This is why I left it off. But I'm glad you added it because I don't want to add Carson City to all my list. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's my favorite game. It has rule selection, so top 10 rule selection games, top 10. It has the victory point track, the city building. Like it has a lot of different mechanisms in it. Mm-hmm. So I could literally add it to a lot. I didn't because of the victory point and the city building. I felt like it would skew there a little bit more.
Yeah.
Fantastic game. If you haven't played this one, this is one you really... And there's a really great collector's edition out.
Yes.
Although my kids stepped on my box, so it has a foothold in it. My favorite game of all time comes out the collector's edition, and now has my child's foothold in it.
It's priceless.
I'm bummed.
Now you can say no one else has the exact same box cover that I do.
My number 7, I included as what I call my non-monetary economic games. So you got Concordia, which has a really good goods market in it. And I played with the new expansion for Concordia, Salsa or something, where they had salt. It's a very good economic game. And Lords of Vegas, where the economy is really centered around property. I know you like Lords of Vegas, right?
Yes, it might be on my list.
Might be? So these are what I call my non-monetary economic games. So Concordia is a heavy game, very hard to understand the scoring in that game. That's unbearable to teach. And then Lords of Vegas is going to be the lighter variant of that, where you're rolling some dice and you're having some fun, and the theme is there, but you really feel like with the dice you're playing Vegas and moving on. So either one of those would be a good selection. I think my top 10 has more than 10 this time.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah. Number 6.
My number 6 is a Phil Eklund game called Pax Porfiriana. Pax Porfiriana is a very meaty economic game. I consider an economic game even though you win by victory points or winning by having a certain amount of victory points of 1 of 4 ways to win. It's really interesting. If you can't win one of those 4 ways, then the game ends and then whoever has the most money is the winner. But in this game, you play a Mexican... You have an hacendado, and you play a guy who's under the control of Porfirio Diaz, who is a dictator of Mexico in the late 1800s. And so you play a guy who's either trying to topple the government in one of several ways. And you do this by building a nice economic empire, and then you use it to either revolt against him, or you use it to initiate a coup, or use it to join with America, and then just boot him out, and then you become the new ruler of Mexico. It's a very, very cool game. It's all cards, and I think this game didn't have a lot of love. I think it was underrated for such a long time, and it just recently got a new reprint with a cool looking board cool components, new card, or not new cards, but updated cards. And it's a game that I think everybody needs to at least play once, because once you play this game, you're just like, oh man, where has this game been all my life? Phil Eklund does a good job.
I felt that way about your friendship.
Phil Eklund has a good balance of like doing games that are simulation but also games. This one tends to be one of the more gamier ones. And
now, when you're the president of Mexico, do you have to pay for America to build a wall around you?
You don't have to pay for a wall, man. Not if America owns you.
That's cheaper, man. My number 6 is what I call the heavy games. So we're going to have 2 games here. I'm giving you options.
Your list, you got like 15 games.
Giving you options.
List.
I'm giving you options. Well, I'm picking one, and then I'm giving you an option if you don't like that. So Panamax is my heavy.
Okay.
But I felt like that was cheating. I'm not sure. It might have been more of a delivering goods game.
Okay. That's still economic.
It's still economic.
Yeah.
Ingredient Incorporated was the other one, where if you wanted something that's like owning a business, like Panamax, I feel like I'm owning a business.
Okay.
Ingredient Incorporated gives me that a little bit more, but these are very heavy games. Panamax probably has the better rule set.
Okay.
Greed feels like it's a little more loosey-goosey. Mm-hmm. That's a technical term. But Panamax is a wonderful game about shipping through the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
And you thought, I don't need a game about shipping in the Panama Canal. You do. It's called Panamax, and it's really good by Stronghold Games. And Greed Incorporated, which we talked about.
Right.
So though, if you're looking for something heavier, these would be it. Can't wait to get to your number 5.
My number 5 is Black Friday.
Oh, this is on my honorable mention.
Yes, by Friedemann Fries.
I played this with you. You taught me this game.
This is a very fun game. This is part of... Man, Friedemann Fries, he's a very interesting guy. I think all his games all start with the letter F.
Yeah.
At least in German they do.
That's like his thing.
And then he wears green all the time. He's wearing green. He dyes his hair green. All his box covers for all his games are green. And Black Friday, even though it says Black Friday, it's in a green box and everything's green.
It's not about buying TVs the day before Thanksgiving, right?
No, it is not. It is a stock market game. And it is a very, very cool, interesting one. This game simulates a bubble. A stock market bubble where the prices in stocks go up, and you want to buy these stocks at a low price and sell them off before the market actually pops. And the whole game becomes this really interesting timing where you're building up your stocks and you're selling, and then or you want to hold them back just before the bubble pops, because once that bubble pops, I mean, everything goes downhill from there.
And the players have control when that bubble's going to pop.
Yes,
it's not
which
random.
Is very cool. And you're buying these stocks in order to buy actually these silver bars. So it's this really, buy stocks in order to buy, stocks in silver, and then that's what determines the winner. And I really enjoy this game. It feels I guess it could be a little dry, but I like the pool bag where you're drawing out stocks and determining which stocks go up, and it's just really fun and engaging, and I really enjoy that. So
it's actually a reprint. It had an original name. It was Microsoft Excel, and it's fun, but it's dry. I mean, it's dry. It's very dry,
and it's a little It could be a little punishing if you don't know what you're doing,
which I normally don't. Number 5 for me is a game I'm not sure you played because it's not on your list. Okay. Is Brew Crafters.
I have not played Brew.
This is an independent game. This is a wonderful game by a designer that I admire from afar. I've seen some YouTube videos of his on like how to produce games. He's done some talks. Mm-hmm. He seems like a really cool guy. As a side note, there's a video on him teaching a class on game design, and it's a very informative video. But I'm sure he was frustrated the heckin' back that day because nobody in the class had any interest in designing a game. But he was asked to come in and guest lecture. Yes. And it's a wonderfully informative, and he did a great job considering his audience. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Oh, man. Ben Rossett? Is that his name?
Close, yeah.
He'll probably put it on the screen here anyway, so you'll know.
We'll do it here.
Very cool guy.
But he did Mars vs. Mechanics, or Mars Game Mechanics, which I didn't really care for. But Beer Crafters, let me get back to this. This is a wonderful economic game about, and I don't drink at all, and I didn't know the process of drinking, but I learned a lot from this game about how to make craft beer and the different types that are in it.
And you could probably make beer now.
But it's really neat. It's really, you're just getting these goods to match these icons, I guess. But I really feel like I'm doing it in the way the process is done. You can speed up the process and upgrade your manufacturing and upgrade what kind of beer you want to produce to get these points. And there's a few different ways to go. It has a lot of pieces. There's a lot of variety in the beer that you can produce. So every game you might, I forget, maybe 6 you choose, 8. But there might be 40 in the game. So every
cool.
game has different. So there's something I recommend you starting with and you go. But it is a really neat economic game that I enjoy. Everybody I've played it with has enjoyed. And this is one I'd really recommend to you.
I've heard it was similar to Agricola. Is it similar to Agricola? Or Caverna, where it's like, No.
I mean, it's worker placement, but
Okay.
I would say it's more like Viticulture.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, because you have like very limited how many, like I think there's only like 2 people I think you have that
2
workers. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the process of making the beer takes turns, kind of like Viticulture. Like how your wine gets better, but you're producing it. It goes on a production thing, and then you ship it off.
Okay.
So I would say probably more like Viticulture than Agricola.
Okay.
But that's might be splitting hairs. So Brew Crafters is mine. Number 4.
My number 4 is another Freedom and Freeze game called Power Grid.
Never heard of it.
Power Grid is probably one of the, I guess, what would you go? What was there's a word for those games that everyone just kind of, you say Power Grid and everyone goes, oh yeah, of course Power Grid.
I say classic. That's what I say.
Classic, I guess. So this game, it's a very straightforward auction game where you're bidding for power plants to then build cities that you then power with your power plants, and then you gain money for powering those cities.
If you've never heard of this game, that would sound terrible.
if you're a hobby board gamer and you've not heard of this game, I would be very, very surprised.
Did you lose your board gaming cred if you haven't heard of this?
You would lose your board gaming cards. Like, sir, you're gonna have to return your board gaming card. It's like, what? You only play Splendor? All right, let me have that back. But this game, it's very mathy. A lot of people don't like it because of how mathy it is. It almost feels like
I wouldn't say a lot of people don't like it.
A lot of people that I've played it with.
You have weird friends.
I do have weird friends, but it's an extremely fun game. For me, the funnest part of the game is the auctions and trying to determine the value of the certain power plants, and then knowing in the game when and how many resources to buy to power those power plants. It's a very fun game. I really enjoy it. And
my best part is when you get to buy resources first, and I'll just buy all the coal you got. Now, you screw somebody over by buying the resources they're going to need, but you're also buying it cheaper than you're going to be able to buy it. So, yes, I'm screwing you, but it's a legitimate game decision I'm making to go ahead and buy this because you're going to buy it if I don't, driving the price up.
Unless you're the guy who's like, wait, what do you need? Oil? That's what I'm buying. I'm buying a lot of oil.
Classic. Yeah.
Oh, it's fun.
It is, and it's also my number 4 by happenstance.
No way.
Yeah.
So we actually had the same one.
I added expansions with mine. Like the expansions of this add new economic models. So like in Korea, for example, there's North and South. And what you produce in North has to stay there, what you produce in South has to stay there. So you can't cross.
Wow.
And then you have like China where the power plants usually come out a little bit randomized. Mm-hmm. In China, they come out in a very direct order. So each one, and then there's certain ones like garbage, I think. I'm making this up, but maybe in France, like garbage is worth more. So every expansion is not just a new map. They actually work in a new economic system.
I didn't realize it was different rules. I thought they were just different maps.
No, it's... I won't say completely different rules, but usually there's a twist to it or a variant that's unique to how that country actually does things.
That is
it's not just random. So it's
cool.
one of the few ones that I do have all of the expansions for. Be careful because the expansions don't work with the deluxe edition. If you have that, it's different artwork. I mean, technically,
also it does work. So it does work. It's just it looks different.
Yeah, but the backs of the cards, yeah. So,
I gotcha.
It is what it is, but if you're the expansions are not going to match the deluxe edition. So a lot of people did not get the deluxe edition for that because the expansions. I don't believe there are any plans to make the expansions in the deluxe version art.
Okay. Yeah.
So really, and the deluxe version isn't that nice. It's like it's not like Carson City or something collector's edition. Or
do you have the stock market expansion? Have you played with that?
Yeah, I got the stock market, and there's some really good fan stuff for it too.
Okay. Cool.
So there's a lot of ways to make that better. And it is a classic game. This is actually my gateway game into gaming.
Okay.
The first time I gamed, I played Oasis and Power Grid. Mm-hmm. And Power Grid's the one we were like, whoa, what is this? You know? Like, let me do it again. Whoa, what is this? Like, I literally did that. So that's how it went down. That was my moment. Did you like my moment?
I liked your moment. It was nice.
Okay, number 3.
Number 3. For me, my number 3 is Airlines Europe, which is an updated version of Union Pacific, which is an Alan Moon game. Very cool. You'd think it's a route building game, but it's actually a stock market game using route building, which is very, very interesting. So in the game, you just play a business person. You're buying routes that planes can connect to different places, and every time you do that, you gain stock of that particular airline. And so what you're doing in the game is making sure that the value of the stocks that you have goes up. And at the end of the game, if you have the most value in stocks, you win the game. It's I like that. I like how simple it is. I like how streamlined it is. And it looks really pretty on the board as you're putting little airplanes claiming routes and stuff. So I suggest people to try this game if you've not tried it before. Alan Moon's Airlines Europe.
Interesting.
Have you played this game?
I have, and I like it, but it's interesting that your list isn't games that you ever asked to play.
What do you mean I never asked to play? I rarely ask games to play.
I know. That's true
in general.
Too. That's true, too. Now you mention it.
Yeah.
But economic games are like, when I think of you, other than a bubble bath, I think of you liking economic games. Like, that to me, like, that's, if I want you to come over, I'm like, I got a new economic game. Let's see, I can get Pedro to come over with this. Yeah. So it's interesting to me to see what you're putting on your list. I would never have known that about you.
Oh, okay.
My number 3 is Battle Merchants, and I call this my Geek Award game, because this is an economic game where you have, depending on playing 3 or 4 players, 4 races, goblins, orcs, and stuff like that, that are fighting, and then you're repairing and making weapons for them to fight.
Yeah, you're like a war dog.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, like, the game isn't about them fighting, but about creating their weapons, and when they go to fight, they break them, and then you get them back. My only issue with the game is that it tends to be, everybody has an advantage for servicing a certain race of people.
Yeah.
Do you call them races? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, they're called races.
Okay. It just seems like you just really try to do your race, you're doing this one, that one. That's probably my only complaint about the game, but that might just be groupthink about it. But it's a really neat little light economic game that's really fun. The artwork is out of this world. It's fantastic. So Battle Merchants, if you haven't checked this one out, do so. It almost feels like it should be that Epic Resort Vault Wars type universe, but it's really, really, really good. So Battle Merchants. Can't wait to hear your number 2.
My number 2.
I'm so excited.
Is Panic on Wall Street. This is the economic game designed for 12 players. And it is so much fun.
The more the better.
The more the better. Because it's a stock game. And
would you play this 2-player?
I would never play this 2-player. It'd be so hard. Because there will only be one winner on each side. And you'd both win. And so that's the end. But it's a cool game. It's got 2 winners. You got people that are the investors, and they're competing against each other to see who wins. And then you have what are the other ones called? The stockbrokers, and they're trying to compete against each other to see who wins. And you have this cool little stock market speculation game where you have dice that determines how the stock market changes. And what I love about it is all the yelling and screaming and dealing, which is what makes the game so much fun. Is that the stock is going to be valuable or might be very valuable, so you're trying to strike a deal with the guy who's the stockbroker, but then Jason here is trying to outbid me and paying this guy more, even though it might be to his disadvantage, or maybe he's trying to bid me up more on that stock. So it's just really fun.
There's a timer, so everybody's doing it at the same time.
Yes, it's all real time. The game is relatively short, and it's a lot of fun to play. If you've not played this game, you have to.
It's a really good party game. Mm-hmm. It's a little hard with non-gamers because you have to just explain 2 sides. Really, 2 games. There's 2 games going on at once.
Yes,
but they're very simple party games. So yeah, my number 2 is what I'm going to call my car pick, and I'm going to give you 3 picks based on how heavy of a game you want. My first pick is a heavy game, which is Kanban. This is going to be a very, very heavy game. We've played this.
Yes.
You have to know what you're doing, a lot of rolls, and you're going to be going through it. In the medium weight would be Kraftwagen. I've been trying to get you to play this. This game is fantastic.
I've heard it's good.
It's wonderful. And then the light version would be Automania. So depending on where you're at, these are 3 very good economic games, all centered around cards. And based on what weight you want, I would probably say the best... They're all so good in so many different ways. I probably like Kraftwagen the best, but I really like how deep Kanban is.
Okay.
And how much it's going on. And Automania is fantastic. It's just light. And so, wherever you sit on the gaming spectrum, I would highly recommend having all 3 of these in your collection. They're really that good. Number 1 for Pedro Mendoza. This is like a big deal to people right now. They're like on the seats. This video is just now being released. Everybody fast forwards to this part. They don't care what I picked. They want to know what Pedro picked.
I don't know if they care what I picked.
Oh, they do.
Okay.
The comments that I get are all about you. They're like, Pedro. And you returned this time. This is a big deal.
Yes, that is true.
They were a little worried last time I did a top 10 without you.
Oh, man. They were like, we want that guy back. What was his name again? The guy who's not Jason.
The guy that didn't know the name was Dylan.
Oh, great.
The women and the men watching wanted Pedro Mendoza back.
Wow, I totally get that.
So who's your number 1?
My number 1 is Lords of Vegas.
Okay.
Lords of Vegas is a very fun, I think, streamlined economic game that has just the right dash of randomness.
With the up expansion or without?
I like it with the up expansion.
Okay.
I only play the up expansion if I have more than 4 players.
5 or 6 players,
Yeah. So in Lords of Vegas, you play a Lord of Vegas. You're going into the Las Vegas Strip before it is that, and you're just building casinos, and you're going to create what is going to be, the city of Las Vegas, which is very cool. And in the game, as you're building your empire, you're also there's this random thing that happens where you want your casinos to be popular and produce a lot of money. And then what you can also do in the game is you can overtake other people's casinos by cleverly buying more land, absorbing other people's buildings into your building. And then what's really interesting is you can have several players be inside the same casino, but only one player can be the boss of that casino who gains the benefit of gaining the points to win. Even though it is a money game, it's actually the person who has the most influence. So if Jason is inside my casino and I still run it, we'll still make money, but I'm the one who's getting the points for it, which is how you win. But Jason can, if he wants, pay the money to try to take control of my casino. And that is what makes the game so much fun. It also has a lot of negotiation where you can make deals and that kind of thing. So it hits all the right notes for me. It's not a very heavy game, but it is definitely a very fun and engaging experience. So
I like Lords this game a lot. This is really good. The up expansion is really neat. You can get enough players to play around it. It's really hard for me sometimes to find 5 and 6 player games, and the Lords of Vegas works so well with the up expansion.
Yes, it does.
That if you're going to play 5 and 6 ever, this is one you should know the rules and kind of keep in your back pocket when you're ready to play.
Right.
My number 1 is a new game that I am just enamored with. I was enamored with Kraftwagen also, but it's Food Chain Magnate. This game is so good. It's a splatter game, so by the same people who did Greed Incorporated, you're going to like this more than Greed Incorporated.
I have a feeling I would. Yeah.
And it's not too long. The cards are a little overpowered and are wonky and add so much strategy and depth, but you know that going in. That is their purpose. Some are more powerful than others. Then you need to race to get those. And if you don't get those, you're not going to lose. Because you can totally screw people over in this game on purpose. And that's the point. The point of the game is to raise the prices. Or if somebody's getting hamburgers and they're making a ton of money of hamburgers, then you make the demand hamburgers and Coke so they can't sell it and they're going to come way across town to you. That's the point. The point is to have a better business than them. I prefer the long version of this game. I want it to go on a little bit longer. That way the game will be fleshed out more. This is a wonderful, wonderful economic game. It is by far the best economic game. It is not difficult in the rules. It's best probably if you have somebody teach it to you. It's not difficult in the rules. It's difficult in the strategy, which is what you want in a game, right?
Right.
Now, it's Splatter, so there's rules involved. There's some funky things going on. And some of those are open to interpretation. You're going to get that with Splatter. And I think that's the point. And I think when they've made some games, I haven't played a ton of them, but like going back to Green Incorporated, there were some things that we were just kind of like, wow, this isn't put together
this was
perfectly.
Funky. Yeah.
With Food Chain Magnate, it's a little bit better, but that's the point. You're supposed to be a little bit creative in how you're going to build your city and your chain of food restaurants and how you're going to screw people. It gives you the flexibility to be innovative, not only in what you're producing, but how you produce it and how you get it out to people. And it just nails it. So this is a fantastic game.
How's the variability on the game?
Great. Because sometimes I play a game, especially if I play with you, I play the game 6, 7, 8, 10 times now.
Yeah.
I would try something different.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that in the game where you just try something different. There's a lot of cards I haven't even utilized yet because you tend to go down one strategy when you're learning. Let me see if this works. This is good because you're actually trying to win. If I'm playing with people who haven't played before, I'll just try things I want to see, or I want to try this card out.
Okay.
But it's very, very. I think there's a lot of variability. We're never going to see an expansion for it. I don't think Spotter does expansions really.
No.
But I think there's enough to keep going. But it's an economic game that's closed, so you can try. Your variability in the game is going to be trying different things, getting different cards.
Okay.
What also interesting, I want to note this, is that when you're the first to do something, you get an innovative advantage. So, for example, if you're the first to produce hamburgers, you might get a +1 when you produce hamburgers.
Ooh, a +1? I like 2 burgers.
Right. If you're the first to sell, you might get an extra $1 when you sell hamburgers.
Okay.
So that tells the rest of us, we got to get you out of the hamburger business, right?
Yeah.
If I'm the first one to advertise in a certain way, I'm going to get that bonus on that advertising. So, and you can have multiples of these. I can be all of those. You can't let me get those advantages. And that's fun. So Food Chain Magnate's really good. It's one you got to play because it will shoot up your...
It'll probably be on this list. I have a feeling. This game would be on my top 10.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So what's some of your closing thoughts about economic games? What did you think about it, or things that surprised you when you're going through the list?
Things that surprised me? I'm surprised how many lighter economic games I enjoy. I mean, I do like heavy economic games, but because of the audience that it's for, like a lot of people in our group don't usually prefer super heavy economic games. We almost have to like kind of say, hey, we want to do a heavy economic game. Who wants to play that game?
Right.
And I do enjoy those games.
And we watch Dylan run out the door.
And Dylan's like, I can't today.
Is there social deduction in the game? He won't watch this, so I can say whatever I want.
That's true. But I think in general for me, I the reason I have these games on my list is because they're games that I play a lot and that I enjoy. And I think other people would enjoy as well. So, yes, these are economic games, but they're approachable for the most part. And, they're just my personal favorites. So I'm surprised at how light some of my favorites are.
Yeah, and a lot of these, you added some more of these Wall Street ones to your list. I try to keep those off my list on purpose because we might make a Wall Street list at some point. There's some. I mean, there's just... What was interesting to me was that there's a lot of economic games, like Grand Austrian Hotel. Some of these that aren't necessarily money. And that was really good.
Yeah.
And I don't think we always think of those as economic games, but there are some really good heavy ones. And I feel like the heavier ones are harder for them to get right.
Right.
And I also noticed that there's a lot that just kind of copy.
I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, there's only so many themes you can do. Like, some economic games that I would like to try, but I haven't, but look interesting, are like Captains of Industry or City Hall, where they're kind of like Wealth of Nations. They're economic.
City Hall.
They're economic games that are not. There's no random element to it. It's just like whatever player decisions happen.
That's Wealth of Nations.
Controls those things, and I think those are interesting, but can also be, there's a lot of those kinds of games. And so when you make one and then you play another one, you're just like, oh, well, this is just like that, only a different theme. So it's hard to make different spins on these kinds of economic games. So, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, thanks for watching.
Yep.
We'll try to get Pedro to come back. It's kind of a big deal.
If you want me to come back way more, just subscribe here and then just put a comment down there that you want Pedro more on the show.
Just put,
Seriously.
I love Pedro. He will come back.
Yes, put I love Pedro right there.
If you're a screaming girl at a Justin Bieber concert, he'll like you just as much. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Hello?
All right.
Ready?
Good, yeah.